so much for joining us for Anime Foodies. My name is Caitlin and I'm the teen adult librarian here at 𝐓𝐢𝐭𝐥𝐞𝐬.
And I'm Rachel. I am a facilitator down at Central.
All right, so today we are making omurice, which is an example of a Japanese Western fusion dish. So you can find it a lot of times in diners. It's a very popular kids meal as well. It's basically just fried rice with some sort of meat, chicken, Spam, cut up hot dogs. So fried rice, fried together, and then wrapped in an omelet. And I think there's some examples in anime too of omurice.
The one I can think that I most associated with is the anime Charlotte. It is a very pervasive meal that the main character eats constantly, and there's like a particular scene makes me cry every time. If you've seen it, you understand.
So hopefully we won't cry today, but we will be cutting onions, so we might. But for our omurice, we are going to use 2 cups of Japanese short grain rice, which needs to be already made, ideally cold the day before. Put it in the fridge, and then you bring it out to make your rice. If you don't have that, any kind of white rice that you have will work. We're also going to use a ½ cup of defrosted mixed veggies, some ketchup and soy sauce to make the rice, some milk and eggs to make the omelet part, cheese, of course. I've got 𝐓𝐢𝐭𝐥𝐞𝐬 cheese here, which you can use any kind of cheese that you like. If you like cheddar, that'll work too. Some oil. We've also got an onion for our fried rice part, and the meat that we're using today is going to be a chicken thigh. So you can use chicken breast if you prefer the chicken breast instead. Just make sure that it's around 4 to 6 ounces because chicken thighs are a lot smaller. So just make sure it's proportional for that. But we are going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start by chopping my onion on one cutting board and my chicken on another, right? Because we don't want to cross-contaminate. And Rachel, if you don't mind to get started on our fry sauce, so we're going to mix 1 tablespoon of ketchup with 1 teaspoon of soy sauce together in order to make the actual sauce for our fried rice. So we're going to turn this on to about a medium heat, and you want to use a non-stick skillet for this. It'll just make it a lot easier to make your omelets. So I'm going to put a little oil in here just to get it started heated up. And omelets cook pretty fast, so we're going to want to get everything ready before we actually get to the actual omelet part. So we're going to start with our fried rice, make all of that, get our eggs beaten up, and then we're going to make our omelets. So while she's mixing those together, and I had a pretty big onion, so if you have a small onion, you can use a ½ of an onion. I had a pretty big one, so I just have a 1/4 of it here. And we're just going to dice it, right? So you can cut off the ends here, and then cut it into strips, and then cut it that way. Pretty fine dice on your onions. And I will put these in my oil. Get that going around there. And then here's a spoon if you want to start frying the onions. So you're going to cook your onions first. Just get them nice and soft. It'll take about 4 or 5 minutes. So while those are going, I'm going to go ahead and dice out my chicken thigh. And you want to do about ½ inch pieces, so maybe about from your pinky knuckle, maybe that big. So not too big, because you want them to cook pretty fast. I'm doing anything yet?
Nope. But it's diligently stirring. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, you probably want to heat your oil before you put in your onions, but since this is an induction cooktop, you kind of need something in there in order for it to really heat up. So And for your chicken thigh, if you get boneless, skinless, all the bones and skin is already taken care of for you, so it's a lot easier to take care of. Because you don't want to eat a bone in your omelet. All right, so now our onions have softened, so we're gonna add our chicken thigh in there. And you're just gonna cook it until it's no longer pink. So depending on how big you cut the chunks, that could be anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes or so. Just watch them and make sure that they cook all the way through. And at this point, feel free to season your chicken and onions with a little salt and pepper. You can do it at any point really, but just definitely make sure that the chicken gets that seasoning. All right, so once your chicken is no longer pink, you're gonna add a 1/2 cup of the frozen mixed veggies and just cook it around for maybe 30 seconds or so. So while she's doing that, I am going to whisk together our eggs. So the recipe only calls for 1 egg per omelet. You can definitely do more if you'd like a bigger omelet, but I'm just gonna do 1 egg for each and we'll see how it goes. And then at any time you can add your 2 cups of cooked white rice in there. And then as you put the rice in, just break it up into smaller chunks. And we're going to prepare our omelets one at a time, so that's why I have 2 separate bowls for my eggs. And then in each egg bowl, you're going to put 1 tablespoon of milk. Whatever kind of milk you have is fine. Then either use a fork or a whisk, and you're just going to whisk it all together. And then once you've got that rice broken up pretty well, you can add your sauce, so that ketchup and soy sauce mixture we made earlier, and just mix it around and get it all incorporated in the rice and chicken. All right, so once that looks good and all incorporated, the sauce is all mixed in there well, you can remove your mixture into a separate bowl or plate. So I've got a big bowl here for us to scoop it into. Right, and then I think we're going to use our slightly smaller skillet. That might make it a little easier to get the egg all over the bottom of that. So if you want to put that on that washcloth there. And we're going to coat our pan really well with the non-stick spray. Let the pan heat up a little bit. All right, and then we're gonna add our 1 egg. And if you don't mind just moving the skillet around, so that way it covers the entire bottom of the pan. Perfect. Where my little spot is. It's being stubborn.
There we go.
There we go. And we're just gonna let that set on the bottom. So we're gonna turn our heat down a little bit so that way it doesn't cook too fast. Turn it down to medium-low. Once it's set on the bottom, we can add half of our mixture and then 3 ounces of the cheese, and we're just going to eyeball that. And you may actually have some leftover mixture too, depending on how big of an omelet that you want. Here's the spatula for you. This is terrible. Not quite. You want it to kind of set on the bottom a little bit, so it's got a little bit longer to go. Edges aren't getting cooked. That's odd. we'll give it a whirl. So once it has set enough, but it's still soft on top, so still a little liquidy on the top, we're going to add some cheese down the middle. Let that melt a little bit. And then add a little bit of our chicken fried rice down the middle. Some veggies in there. And like I said, this recipe says the mixture makes 2, but you could definitely get 3, possibly 4 omelets out of this mixture. It's a lot. All right, and then what you're gonna do is you're gonna scoop the sides over the middle. It might not overlap, and that's okay. As best you can.
Almost
Perfect.
a thing, yeah.
Omelets are really tricky.
They are. What am I doing?
There you go.
You know,
Perfect.
it's a thing.
And then you're just gonna flip it out over on here. Flip it over. Over.
Baby. Perfect.
And then
That's what I'm here for, guys.
the final thing that they do is they cover it with the paper towel and they shape it. The diners over in Japan do. They shape it into a little football shape.
See, now it is perfect. There you go.
You got a little piece of chicken hanging out. And then what they do is they just top it with a little bit more ketchup. And I've got this lovely spicy ketchup, which is delicious. And voila, there you are. 1 omurice. And now we have to try it. I've got some forks over there. All right. Ooh, look at that cheese. It's gonna be really hot.
It was really good.
Delicious. Now you know why it's a fan favorite. Kids all over Japan.
Here are some of the manga titles I've been enjoying this month. The first one I have is My Love Mix-Up by 𝐓𝐢𝐭𝐥𝐞𝐬, I think is how you say it. This is a love triangle kind of rom-com. It is about, primarily focuses on Aoki. He has a crush on Hashimoto and borrows an eraser from her one day and sees the name Ida written on it with a heart. So he starts panicking because, you know, the girl he has a crush on likes someone else. But things get a little more complicated when Ida sees Aoki with the eraser and now thinks that he has a crush on Ida. This causes a lot of chaos and confusion, and Aoki tries to bring Ida and Hashimoto together to just clear things up and make everything better. But unfortunately, his plans do not go as he expects, and things get a little more interesting. Next, I have A Witch Hat Atelier by 𝐓𝐢𝐭𝐥𝐞𝐬 Shinohara. This one focuses on Coco. She's a little girl who has been obsessed with magic her entire life, but everyone's always told her you have to be born a witch. Magic isn't something you can learn. Well, one day Coco finds out the truth about how magic is actually made. Unfortunately, in this world, if you find out magic's secret, you have to have your memory erased, or if you're lucky, you get to become a witch yourself. Unfortunately, there was an accident with her family as she found out the secret of magic, so now she has decided to become an apprentice under the witch 𝐬𝐴 to learn magic and save her mother. She has to undergo trials to become an apprentice, and as she learns magic and has to deal with his other apprentices who aren't exactly happy with the circumstances with which she was allowed to join them. This book also has insanely beautiful illustrations, probably some of my favorites in all manga, honestly. And I actually have a third title to talk about this month, but I do not have it with me. It is only available as an ebook in English. You can actually get it through the Libby app or on the Overdrive website, which you can find through our website. It is called Blue Lock. So it takes place in 2018 in Japan after they lose the World Cup, and kind of was a crushing defeat for them. So the Japanese Soccer Federation decides to undertake a unique approach to bettering their team. They gather 300 of the best high school strikers across the country and put them together in Blue Lock, which is a dormitory / practice space where they have to undergo very intense soccer trials. And any of them who do not come out victorious as the #1 striker in Japan has to give up on their soccer career forever. Not only is it just kind of like, it's a relatively normal concept of a sports manga. However, the illustrations in it are very unique. They're very intense and kind of bring a horror quality to the whole thing, which I really enjoy.